Hi, it's Mary from Asana Yoga, and this is my friend Margaret, and she's going to help me show you a few different variations of triangle pose today. So, Margaret, when you do a triangle pose, what is it that you hope to attain? What are two or maybe three things that you like to experience when you're doing triangle?
I like to feel an opening of my chest. I like to feel a nice stretch up the side of my body, and I like to feel a nice hamstring stretch up my leg.
Okay, so those are three things that I think are pretty common when people do a triangle pose. But based on a lot of different things in our bodies, the shape and size of our bones and lots of other things, not everybody feels that and not everybody experiences that in the same way. So I'm going to have Margaret stand up. She's going to take a wide straddle. And she's going to turn her right toes to point toward the front of the room. So she's getting her legs set up for a triangle. And actually, I'm going to have her come back and turn her toes so they all face the same direction. And bring her hands onto her hips. Good. So we're going to be turning her right leg forward. And as she does, watch what happens to her left hip. Can you see how it kind of turned? And so, Margaret, can you pull your left hip back without moving your right foot? What does that feel like for you?
It feels more like that straight, flat plane.
Okay, it feels like you're between two planes of glass.
Yes.
Yeah, and you might have heard that phrase that in triangle you're supposed to be between two panes of glass. So it can be really hard because, I don't know if you can see it in the video, but as she tries to turn her hip back, this knee starts to turn inward at kind of, I don't want to say unsafe, but sort of an unnatural angle. So I'm going to let her turn her hips just until her knee points about the same direction as her toes. We're going to call that good for her hips. Okay, so we've got her legs pretty well set. I want you to pay attention to this back hand too, back hip, as I'm going to ask her to take her left heel back just a little bit. And you might have noticed this hip turned a little bit more. And you can keep taking your hip back or your heel back a little bit more, Marg, if you want, just until it feels comfortable. So is that about where your feet are in triangle?
It's actually, my heel needs to come forward a little bit.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so she's got her legs where she likes to have them in triangle, but she wanted an opening across her chest, and triangle's a side-facing pose. So we're going to keep her hips just how they are. We're going to ask her to turn her ribs to face forward to the camera. And what do you notice when you do that?
A little pull in the back.
A little pull in your back, okay. But everything else is okay?
Everything else is good.
Okay. So we've got her legs and her upper body pretty much set up for her triangle pose. So she's going to stretch her arms out. And you may have gotten a cue from your teacher that your front hand should come to the floor. So that's where we're going to start. She's going to reach her front hand forward and bring it all the way down to the floor. And now we're going to check in with those three parts. First of all, do you feel open across your chest?
I do not.
She does not. And that's because, I don't know if you can notice, her top shoulder is kind of rolling forward so that she can get her bottom hand to the floor. So that's not such maybe the best spot for her. How about the hamstring, Margaret? You
I'm
feeling
definitely
that?
getting a good hamstring stretch.
Definitely good hamstring. And how about up here on the side of your body?
Just a little stretch, not
Just
what
a
I
little
like.
bit. So that's variation one. We're going to take a block, slide it under her hand, so it lifts her up a little bit. Now, as you lift up, what changes do you notice, Marg?
A little less of the hamstring stretch.
Okay.
A little better chance for opening of the chest.
Okay.
And a little more of the side stretch.
Okay, so we've lost a little hamstring, but you're still feeling something?
Yes.
So it's still okay.
Yes.
So if she wanted more hamstring and was willing to sacrifice shoulders and top, she could go without the block. So we're going to turn the block up one more time to a little higher height. So she's coming up even higher. Now what are you finding?
Now I have virtually no side stretch.
Okay.
And my chest is open, and my hamstring stretch is mild.
Okay. So we've kind of lost two of the three elements she's looking for. So I'm going to have her grab that block and move it to the outside of her foot. And as she leans back on the blocks, you may see her hips come forward toward the camera a bit. Now what are we noticing?
A pinch in the lower back.
Okay, a little pinch in the low back because she's bringing her hips forward. So maybe she doesn't push her hips forward quite as much.
And still a good hamstring stretch.
Okay, better than when the block was on the inside of your foot?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Or better, I should say, more intense.
More intense.
Okay.
And not so much of a side stretch.
Not so much of a side stretch. Can you turn the block down one notch? So we're going to bring her down a little lower. What'd that do to your hamstring?
hamstring is intense now, pretty good
Okay.
stretch.
Side
And
stretch?
side stretch is good.
And how about shoulders in front of the chest?
Not quite as open maybe as they were.
Okay. So go ahead and bring your top hand to your hip, and you can lift back up. Good. So what Margaret just experienced was several different variations of the same pose. And the question I pose to you is, which one's right?